Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Life in HD, where we invite special guests to come in and chat with us about human design lived out in real life. And if you're new to this channel, I'm your host, Crystal Alferrero. I'm a human design guide and founder of the Human Design Academy. And today, we're going to be exploring life as an emotional manifesting generator with the lovely April, who's a 6'3" emotional manifesting generator and also a trauma-informed life coach. Welcome, April. How are you? How are you doing today? And I know it's evening for you as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this. Ever since you brought it up in our Facebook group, I was like, yes, I want to do this. Like Crystal, you've been so instrumental in my growth as a coach, but just my whole understanding of human design in general. And I just can't thank you enough for that.
Oh, you're so welcome and so lovely to have you. And I guess for everyone else that doesn't know who you are, I'd love if you could just introduce yourself, give us a little bit around what you do and how you integrate human design into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, where do I not integrate human design? That's the question. So I am a life coach, like what Crystal said. I'm also a mother of three. I'm also a licensed RN, which, by the way, I'm gonna go back to into part-time. We'll talk more about that later. But I utilize human design a lot with my clients, especially to just help them come back home to themselves. A lot of the clients that I work with have experienced a lot of generational trauma and conditioning. Being Filipino American, first generation, I'm sure you can relate to a lot of these things too, Crystal. About, it's all in the name of love, but definitely we kind of get put into a box, and human design has really helped liberate me and my clients from that box of
Absolutely. Yes.
And then to be able to utilize it in my own family and nurture my three kiddos who are all so different from each other, to be able to nurture them for exactly who they are, not who I think they should be, or try to like project my own shit onto them. Oh, sorry. Can I?
No, yeah, well, okay. I'll allow it.
Okay. I'm like, oh wait, that just slipped out.
Yeah.
Projecting my own stuff onto them. It's been really like instrumental in how I'm raising them, and also how my husband and I communicate and work together too as partners.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And what was it that brought you to human design? Was it something that fell into your lap, or did someone kind of like shove it into your face?
Yeah. So one of my other mentors, actually, she talked to me, but she brought it up to me. When was that? In like 2019. And it intrigued me enough to get the book, the definitive book of human design.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal, I bought that book. I opened up the first few pages, and then I put it back on the shelf. I was so overwhelmed. My whole spirit was just not ready to dive into that. And then come late 2020, I was starting to do a lot of coaching already at that time. And I started seeing it more on my feed, and it was not many people were talking about it, but for some reason, like there'd be like sparks of, posts here and there. And so I decided to, dive in a little bit deeper. And then I found you, and the way you explained it was so simple and easy to understand. And then I ordered a blueprint from you. And ever since that first session, I was like, oh yeah, I need to know more about this.
That's amazing. I feel like, yeah, it's been maybe almost 3 years now since we met, or maybe 2 years, but it feels like quite a long time. Yeah,
it does. And there's been so much growth between you and I.
Oh my God. Yeah. I feel like we've seen each other on so many like different, what are we saying? So many different parts of our journey.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's beautiful to see. And yeah, if you don't follow April on Instagram, she's April's Beautiful Mess. And I feel like that handle just describes beautifully the journey of like having that line 3 in your profile, the 6'3" in general. Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I guess one of my questions that I love to ask is, was there something that you've learned about yourself through human design that you didn't know before, or that maybe you were running from before and, maybe didn't accept about yourself?
I think one of the biggest things was just learning about me being a manifesting generator and being multi-passionate, and not really feeling I would feel really limited if I felt like I had to stick to one thing.
Mhm.
And I've always been someone who's tapped into a lot of things all at once. And there's part of me that kind of felt shame with that, because I felt like there's things that I would start and then not want to finish anymore. And this, like being a manifesting generator, kind of gave me that permission to be like, actually, that's okay. I meant to not really always finish everything. Once it gets to that point of being energy draining, it's actually safe for me to stop. I can let it
Mhm.
go. And that was actually one of the biggest supporting factors. And when I ended up leaving my hospice nursing job and going all into my coaching,
Yeah.
and it was really scary, but at the same time, I was like, if I don't do this now, I don't know when I'm going to do it. And I was just finding myself kind of spiraling and feeling drained every single day. Yet I had this like coaching on the side that was so like energizing for me. So diving into the design more and just really trusting my gut, not like pulling from my logic to make that decision,
Mhm.
was really like allowing my body to be the compass.
Yes.
Again, it was so scary, but I was like, no, I gotta, like, my body's gonna revolt if I don't listen. So I finally decided to just be like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta leave.
Oh, I know. And it's, I mean, like with entrepreneurship, like there's so many ups and downs and like big things that we have to, non-logical decisions that we have to make. And so
Yeah.
when you were going through that process of, choosing to leave your hospital job, your hospice job, and then also maybe even now, because I know you just mentioned to me that you're gonna go back part-time.
Yeah.
What does that sacral response feel like for you? Like,
Mm.
we talk so much about the sacral response as sounds, as the uh-huh or the uh-uh. And I know a lot of manifesting generators, especially if you have that the 3420, some people don't resonate with that. But I guess I want to hear from you what that feels like for you or sounds like or whatever, like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So luckily, like this past year, I worked a lot with I worked a lot more with like somatic awareness, like just even within myself and how I guide clients. But for me personally, it's really about getting in tune with that gut of mine and how it connects to actually like my heart space. So when I'm really lit up by something, I feel my stomach literally like jump up to my heart, and it's like, like yes, 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 like
Mhm.
that's my fuck yes. And then if it's a no, it literally feels like a knot going into into my stomach. So like, for example, like just recently I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to part-time nursing. Entrepreneurship is really hard. And like 2022 was no exception to that for me. It was
No.
great. Had a beautiful amount of clients that I work with, but there was also a part of me that wasn't feeling safe and comfortable with like what I was able to bring in as far as supporting the family. So I was like, okay, it's time. That right there felt like part of it was a not, but part of it was also spacious. So
Mhm.
spaciousness also is my sign to be like, let's be curious about it. It's okay. Let's look into it. I know we don't want this, but let's look into it. And I remember I was looking at jobs, and girl, I like all I wanted to do was curl up into a ball because my stomach just felt so sick and nauseous. And
Mhm.
then that's when I was like, wait a second, I also have the power to manifest what I want. So I'm going
Mhm.
to be picky this time and say, okay, well, not too picky because I'm a non-specific manifester, but I said, I want a job that will allow me to work part-time, be with people that I know like have good energy, be something that I've done before. So it's not completely renewing a whole like nursing skill
Mhm.
set. Um, and it's going to be flexible with me. And I had no idea what that was going to look like. And I decided to plant a little seed with one of my friends from a last clinic an old oncology clinic that I used to work at. And they weren't talking about any openings, but I was just like, hey, are you guys hiring by any chance? And they actually had just let someone go. And she was like, okay, my boss comes back in 2 weeks. I will ask her then. So I was like, this is perfect because this is going to give me 2 weeks to feel
Mhm.
this wave out. Because even when she told me, like, oh my gosh, we'd love to have you back, I did feel like an inkling of excitement, but I also know my emotions can be fleeting. So I
Mhm.
allowed myself to kind of just give myself 2 weeks of just, okay, how do I, how does my gut feel about this clinic if I were to go back? And every day, like that previous knot that I thought I had, it actually started subsiding, and I'm just
Yeah.
feeling spacious again. And so it's like, okay, my mind is still like, no, we don't want to go back. But my body is like,
Mhm.
no, girl, like, it's okay. This is actually going to give us a lot more room for expansion in other ways. And I know myself too, the more I'm doing, the more I do, right? Like, I actually really do love to be busy. I don't like having so much free time all the time.
You said like a true MG with
I
with the channel of
know.
charisma. Yeah.
Exactly. So 2 weeks later, the manager's like, we want you back, like, we want to give you the formal offer. And this was without me, again, like, having to apply for it again, or like,
That's
go through the whole
amazing.
hiring process. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you, universe. Like, it's really I can just plant seeds out there, when I want, and listen to that body of mine, because I was looking for a while, and then I told myself I need to stop. I need to stop
Hmm.
looking at like job postings right now, because it wasn't making me feel good. Like, I literally started to feel sick.
Hmm. The
So yeah,
frustration,
the
the
frustration was setting in so hard, and it was affecting my relationship. And I told myself, I just need to stop. I'm not gonna get what I want by this way, because I'm obviously not responding. Like, my body's not
yeah.
responding well to this. So
Hmm. Oh,
yeah,
I love
that's
that
just
you're
the most recent
listening.
example.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. And I think you kind of like segued that perfectly, because I wanted to ask around, how you, listen to that response in conjunction with your emotional wave as an emotional manifesting generator. And I think that's a perfect demonstration of that. And I think that's also, it's funny because you planted that seed. And I feel like that's the same way that we started working together initially as well.
Yes.
Because we started working together before I started the academy, and April was looking for a mentor, and she's like, I'm not sure if you do this, but, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, normally no, but yeah, let's work something out. And so I love the way you're just like that master manifester, planting the seed, not having too many
Yes.
expectations. If it works out, it works out. If not, no big deal. Like we'll
Yeah.
we'll move on to the next thing. But that's, yeah, I think that's a perfect example. And going to your emotional wave, you have quite a bit of, I'm just going to pull up your chart quickly. She has the gate 55, gate 22. So both of the individual, emotional waves, very up and down, also the gate 36 and then the gate 37. And actually her emotional center is defined by the channel of community. So the 3740. So what does that feel like for you?
Oh man. Okay. Well, obviously I'm a very emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. But being more aware of this, and then also doing a lot of that somatic work, it has really changed the way, I think one of the biggest way one of the biggest ways that I've changed is how I parent, when it
Mhm.
comes to my emotions and my reactivity. So, and I guess even in my marriage too, because, if me and my husband get into an argument, or if, he triggers me in some way, now I actually know how to kind of shut up and shift out of that situation
Mhm.
before I like snap right away. I'm also a Gemini, so I could be like, rah,
Yeah.
my words can be very, very mean. But because I'm so much more aware of my emotional wave and making sure that I allow myself to flow through things instead of just reacting on that first impulse, I've saved us from a lot of big fights, and then
Mhm.
also doing this with my kids. Before, I could easily get mad if I see a mess or something like that. But now it's like
Mhm.
they get almost like 10 chances to clean up the mess
Yeah.
before I actually blow up. Not to say that I never blow up, but I'm able to really bring myself and regulate my nervous system a lot more now, because of that awareness of like, okay, I know my emotions can really go from 0 to 100. If it's at
Mhm.
100, I need to get myself back to a neutral before I can even think about approaching them or a situation
Yeah.
beforehand. So it's, being able to wait and have patience, even mostly with myself, has been one of the biggest lessons for me. And it's been beneficial in so many other, in so many ways in my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like human design is huge for helping parents learn how to regulate themselves, right? I
Yes.
mean, part of that and understanding how we, maybe react or respond to things, bringing us more awareness to that. And like you were saying, with your relationships, with how you parent, and even for me, like I snap too. I have an undefined sacral, or sorry, undefined solar plexus, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's kind of inevitable. Like we all have a certain amount of patience and a certain amount of, we're human. And especially I can only imagine being an emotional being and also like adding that on top.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you've been able to integrate that somatic work as well in terms of helping you regulate that emotional wave. But are there any like go-to techniques or rituals, like somatic techniques or rituals that help you manage that you do? Like, let's say, for example, it's the fifth time that you asked your son to pick up his socks from the floor, or your husband. Is there something that you do before approaching it and before reacting?
Yeah. I mean, I always tap back into my body. So I have to figure out like, what are the sensations I'm feeling? If I feel like my heart is beating too fast or I'm getting too hot, like I can really feel like literal fire within me. I use tools just like breathe, deep breathing, and just visualization to just douse that fire a little bit, so that when I do communicate and use like that throat, to make sure that my words are exactly what I need to say and not anything extra that could be like harmful or just too much. Um, Funny side note, like my son had a sleepover a few weeks ago, and there was like a little fight between their friends. And I was like getting a little flustered because I was like, first of all, I haven't had this many boys in the house, like
Oh my
with so
God.
much energy in ever. And I was like trying to explain to them, I was like, okay, we need to, make sure we have conflict resolution and all this stuff. And then one of the kids was like, too many words. And I was like,
Oh my God.
you're right. There's too many words. So that was such a good, it was a funny example for, funny reminder for, okay, I need to just make sure my words are just short and succinct. Let's not get too emotional about it. These are not all emotional beings. But yeah, it just reminds me to just, I don't know. It's always like a constant check-in with myself of like, where am I right now? Not about like, what are they doing? What's everyone else doing? What is the situation? But where am I standing right now? Am I centered? Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that can definitely test you.
I know.
Having a preteen. Is he no, he's now a
Well,
teen.
he's a preteen. No, he's 11. He's 11, but
Okay.
acts like
Yeah.
a preteen and a teen, or acts like a teen.
Preteen
So
sleepover, of course. The
oh my
drama.
gosh, the drama, the hormones, it was everything. So it was
Oh, I can imagine.
woosawing
Well,
all night.
you are doing an amazing job. And I feel like, you've been a parent for 11 years now, and you have so much wisdom to share. And you've been on a journey of like a lot of changes, a lot of different things that have happened in your life, in true 6'3" profile style. But out of all of the trial and errors and all of the discoveries that you made, is there any particular lesson that, or actually mistake that you in the moment thought that you made, and then later ended up realizing that, okay, well, this is actually a really big lesson. This is a gift. I'm glad that this happened. If any, no
I mean,
pressure.
there's like lots of mistakes, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm trying to think like, what's the biggest one? Okay, maybe I don't really call it a mistake, but I think not allowing myself to live in the now was one of the biggest lessons for me. And I learned that in many different ways about living in the now. I mean, when I was doing hospice, obviously there's a lot of lessons there when I would hear stories from like my patients about, being present, really like it, being with patients at their last chapter of life really does remind you to be like, wow, what am I doing with my life right now? How much more time am I wasting not going after the things that I want, not saying the things I need to say? So even when it comes to following my dreams, like I, as a people pleaser, like I grew up as that Filipino people pleaser, making sure that I cared a lot more about what everyone thought or how everyone felt over my own, feelings and thoughts. I finally, once I started diving more into human design, I was like, I got to do this for me, and I think that was one of the biggest lessons for me of just not always putting everybody first.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know now that when I can put myself first, I have more energy to give to everybody else anyways, so that I think, so again, it's not necessarily a mistake, but it was definitely a struggle that I had for many, many years of not making decisions based off of what I actually wanted and just doing what
Absolutely.
everyone told me was safe.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that topic actually came up on my client call yesterday.
Oh, really?
Just, you know what I mean? Like doing what everyone else wanted and feeling unsafe to put certain boundaries in place, feeling unsafe to do what it is that you need to do to nourish yourself because it was perceived as selfish.
Yeah.
And right, like exactly what you said, it's when you are nourished, when you are resourced, that's when you have so much more to give back. And that's when you're more patient, parenting becomes easier, being, a good partner becomes easier because you're just regulated and you're not, you know,
Yes.
at the point where, someone touches you and you just kind of feel like you want to explode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very much. And like, even now it's like when we talk about boundaries. So right now I'm in my 30s, I'm on the roof, right? And
Yeah.
that channel 3740, it really has me reevaluating a lot of the relationships in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that the people that I allow in my life, they're reciprocal. It's a reciprocal energy. It's not out of obligation. A lot of us can tend to
Yes.
also like hold on to friendships over, through nostalgia, but really those friendships aren't really benefiting either party anymore. It's kind of it just is,
Yeah.
and there's nothing anymore. And and it's hard to let go, but that has really allowed me to let go and just be like, okay with it and accept it. It doesn't mean that I love them any less. It's just, it is what it is,
Yeah.
and then this past year too, I've had to set like a lot of healthier boundaries with people that I do love. But just knowing, okay, what can I accept but no longer tolerate in my
Mm-hmm.
life? And I actually had to say those lines. It's just like, I can accept you, but I can't tolerate this behavior,
I love that.
so yeah, it was hard. It was hard, setting those boundaries is not easy because it puts everyone in a level of discomfort, but I've learned to really protect my peace, and that's something I
Mm-hmm.
teach to my clients. This is what I want to teach to my kids. Your peace has to be your priority. Otherwise you lose yourself.
Absolutely. And sometimes it almost feels a bit harder when it's a friend versus like a partner because you know what? We're not used to having those confrontations with our friends, right? A lot of the times we just kind of brush it aside. We're not like in that direct contact with them all the time as we are with our partners. So it doesn't feel necessary, but it is absolutely necessary. Otherwise,
It is.
it kind of like simmers under the surface.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy either. That does not contribute to your peace at
Right.
all.
Right.
Um, yeah.
It'd be, like I would hang out with someone and then afterwards I'm just like, why do I feel like I got stabbed a little? Like,
Yeah. Oh
and
my
like,
gosh.
it wasn't direct, but then there was
Mm,
just something off and it just didn't feel good anymore. And again, it's not about seeing them like you're better than them or anything like that. It just wasn't jiving. And
yeah.
sometimes we hold on to these things because again, we feel like we feel like we'll should on ourselves.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's been very liberating to just be able to be like, no, we're not really friends anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
really do end up making space for people who are the yes, in your life. And that's what's happened for me. Like I've found a lot of other friendships, made a lot new friend, a lot more friends, which making adult friends is hard. Like
oh
it's not
yeah.
always the easiest thing,
Yeah.
but again, that because I was able to make space for that and really understand what kind of relationships I was looking for, those are the friendships that I've manifested into my life. And I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's worth it when, you've
Totally.
created that space, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot healthier. And actually for anyone that I know you mentioned that you help your clients with the people pleasing, with all of that
Mhm.
good stuff. So, what are ways that people can reach out to you if, they're, and actually, what kind of people do you help specifically? Is there any
Yeah.
specific type of, I'm not, yeah, is there any specific type of a person that you help through? I know you're a trauma informed life coach. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly like, I never really put it out there like that, but I'm most of my clients are like first or second generation
Mm-hmm.
Americans. So they a lot of us have the same story as far as having that conditioning, whether it's cultural, religious, societal conditioning growing up and trying to break out of that box.
Mhm.
So with the work that we do, I usually start off with a lot of healing first before I even introduce human design. Human design is a very huge chunk of what I teach to my clients, but I kind of introduce that like 4 weeks in, because we do a lot of deconditioning first to help them understand that, okay, there's layers here. Before I can bring you back home, let's understand what these layers are first. So we do a lot of shadow work. I integrate a lot of inner child work, which is one of my favorite modalities to use with my clients. And a lot of getting to know their body. So by the time we get to human design, they know how to tune in and figure out what that sacral response is, the splenic response is, whatever, their authority is. And then, from that point on, that's when we start integrating human design more. They get a blueprint from me, and that's their guidebook, for how to come back home and how to really trust themselves again and not seek that outside validation anymore.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think there's one more thing that I wanted to ask you, but how can people connect with you if they want to learn more, if they want to reach out and ask, just see if it's a good fit with them?
Yeah. So you can reach me on Instagram under April's Beautiful Mess, or you can go to www.aprilsbeautifulmess.com. And then also one of the random things that I started in 2022 with my husband is we started a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called Blunt with My Bestie. And we actually talk a lot about human design on there. Like, my husband knows nothing as far as like doing his own research on human design, but he knows what we do together.
Yeah. And your husband's a manifester, right?
He's
I
a
think.
manifester.
Yeah.
I'm the only one in my family who has a sacral energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like learning that too has really helped how I can navigate everyone in my family to
Oh
get
my
them to do the
gosh.
things that I need them to do.
You need to like link arms with them, have
Yes.
them, leverage that sacral energy of yours.
Exactly. Always like projecting my sacral
Yeah.
energy at them. No, but like my approach with each of them is all different. I have 2 manifestors and 2 projectors in my
Oh,
house.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 2 manifestors in the same house. Are they both emotional manifestors or?
No, Austin, my oldest, he's an emotional manifester, and then Raph is a splenic manifester.
Okay. So he's like, he's the mix of both of you.
Yes, he is. He is. And, with Raph and I, like being able to understand how our designs work together, especially when it comes to my emotional waves and his non-emotional, like he's so inconsistent with it, and he can get over things so much faster than I can. And
Yeah.
that used to be a point of contention for us, because I'd be like, why is this not a bigger issue for you? And he's like, why is this such a big issue? and him like now really giving me room and space to process through things before feeling like, we have to make it any bigger than it needs to. It's been super helpful.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have both of you on here at some point.
Oh my gosh. He'll be
Oh, that would
funny
be so
about it.
fun. And yeah, so I guess just to kind of wrap up, is there any favorite mantra that you have that you want to share with us today that you can leave us with?
Yeah. So this is my mantra of the year. And I got this from one of my mentors, Nicole. So I'll just say it. It gets to be easy, and it gets to be good, and it gets to keep getting better.
I love that. It feels so like open, like it opens the doors to the possibilities.
Yes. Yeah. Because, when we do a lot of inner work, and I think like last year I did so much shadow work for myself, sometimes we can kind of get trapped in it.
Oh yeah.
Or get really clouded by it. And it's good because obviously you're unlearning and learning a lot more about yourself. But I kind of lost myself when it came to like my own power of manifesting at times. And with this mantra, I feel like it shows me that there are always open doors.
Yeah.
And nothing is ever obviously a failure. It's always just another way to show you, okay, well, this is not the path. I get to go here then.
Yes.
And it gets to keep getting better.
I feel like that's kind of similar to what I always say to myself whenever I'm setting an intention, or even like before hopping on a call, I always like set my certain intentions and all of that kind of stuff. But it was one of my past mentors as well that taught me to kind of say at the end of everything, this or something better. And
Yes.
it's kind of like opens up the realm of possibilities. And, we're not so attached to how we think things should be or how things, we think things should play out, but it's like, it's going to be this, or it's going to be different, but better than expected. Right.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I think I heard that one from Catherine Zinkina before.
Oh, okay. Probably.
Yeah. She's also one of my like online mentors.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do we describe them now?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, you feel like you want to say friend, but it's like, you don't actually, know you. But
I don't know if they even know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Well, thank you so much, April, for taking the time to chat with us, share your wisdom. Oh, I love listening to you and I love catching up.